It's an experiment, and the next time you see it, you know what'll be happening to it. Mwahahaha.
Yep, all things come to an end, don't they? Well, they seem to in my workshop, perhaps with more frequency than many other people's workshops. Well, you know, I like to use the piece of wood over and over again to try out different techniques, and this is a bit of a variation on a theme from probably 6 to 10 months ago. I did a demo where I had used ebonizing lacquer and then blitzed it with a heat gun and blistered it and got some interesting texture. Well, this is probably what was in the back of my mind as I mulled over the next step with this experiment with colouring. It's spray paints again. It's similar to the paper paint pulling technique that you've seen on a few other videos, except this time rather than pull it with a piece of paper, I used the end of a piece of water pipe, 22mm if you need the exact size. There is a point where it begins to look like the top of a cream slice to me, and that might be something worth pursuing another time. But I went beyond that, as you'll see, after I put all my colours on, and these are the colours that I've used in previous videos, MTN 94, and I'll put a link to those in the description. Reasonably cheap price, mainly around about £5 a can, and I'm still using the cans that I used in the very first of these videos over a year ago, so they do last a long time, even if you use them as frequently as I do and cover them up with each other. So here we go. This is where I'm starting to pull the colour through, and for me the interest in doing this was to sort of get some of the colour coming through but preserve some of the top. But I think you'll agree it's probably rather tame by some of the more outlandish efforts that I've produced recently. Might work better, I think, with fewer colours, this one, and it's not very often you hear me say that. But I persevered. I worked my way all the way around, twisting. You can see the colour coming through from below, so it can be an interesting technique. Bit of paper towel there just to wipe the end occasionally if it was getting a little bit gummed up with paint. And we go round and round and round and round, and nearly there, nearly there, nearly there. And got to a point where I covered it all, and there actually is a bit of footage with me saying, oh, I need to wait a few days now for it to dry. I've edited that bit out because I reached for my heat gun. And then it must have occurred to me that if I held the heat gun in one place a bit longer, I wonder what would happen to the layers of wet paint. And if you see starting to appear now are the colours underneath the white, and it starts blistering, and where I've pressed the tube into the paint, we can still see what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we can still see where those impressions were made. And the paint seems to blister along those lines and form flakes that have actually dried, and have dried quite hard. You'll see in some stills that I'll be putting up in a moment. Well, probably nearer the end, actually. I'll hold this up and talk you through it to camera. It's a demo of two halves, this one, two for the price of one.
So here you can see the dual nature of this week's project. Vaguely reminiscent of a cream slice, and then some sort of bilious viral interpretation of paint and texture. Feels very rough. You can see there it's raised quite a lot, but it's very, very hard. There's no finish on this, it's just the paint. I finished the inside so you can get that nice contrast with the finished wood. I think overall what I would like to do with this, because it's not a finished piece, I might just have a little go at sanding some of these back and seeing what that looks like, just because it's a piece of wood that I'm trying out things on. I think for me I'd probably like colours with a stronger contrast here, so I'll try this again with some warmer colours and some black, I think. But there is the opportunity to come in here, put some colour in, add some paint even, maybe even get some contrast by just dry brushing over the top. But that's another experiment conducted. I wouldn't say concluded, but I hope it's given you some ideas to try some things out like this. But it would be remiss of me not to mention health and safety of doing something like this when you've got aerosol paint in your workshop. Make sure it's well ventilated. Make sure you're wearing a vapor mask. If you've got a fan to help blow the fumes away, then that's great as well. And beware of not using naked flame on this, just that heat gun. If you're going to set fire to the paint, make sure you do that somewhere else, outside, away from anything that could catch fire. I do like this lovely shiny bit in the middle. So that's it for this week. A bit of a short one. Who knows, there might be something after the title credits where it gets a little bit more tinkering with. But until next time, thanks for watching.